Welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast that's all about real conversations for real transformation. I'm your host, Kat Pulcinelli, professional speaker, MC, and best-selling international author. Here, we tackle the tough stuff, the mud that we all have found ourselves in. We talk about the pivots, the challenges, and the victories that shape our lives and our businesses. From overcoming trauma and finding your voice to navigating life's unexpected twists, we get raw, honest, and open. You'll hear from inspiring guests who share their stories of resilience, healing, and growth. Whether it's breaking through emotional abuse, embracing self-worth, or thriving in entrepreneurship, you'll find connection, empowerment, and the tools to keep you moving forward. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and get ready for stories that hit home and conversations that make a difference. Let's get real together. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I am so excited to have you here. I have been waiting for this interview for like the longest time. You guys have zero clue how long I have been waiting. Lee, I am so excited to have you a part of the podcast today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Kat. You don't know how long I have been waiting.
Oh, I love it. You guys, so when Lee and I first met and she gave me her backstory, which I'm going to let her share with you in just a second, I was so blown away and I was so intrigued and I had so many questions that I actually had to stop myself and I was like, I can't ask you this because I have to ask you on the podcast so that everybody else can hear it. So Lee, thank you again for being a part of the podcast. Please do us a favor and tell us all who you are and all of the things that you have done.
Thank you, Kat. Yeah, my name is Lei Wang. I'm based in Seattle. I'm a leadership development expert. I work with business organizations and leaders on leadership development and team performance. And also I speak on big stages as a motivational speaker on achieving the seemingly impossible goals.
Achieving the seemingly impossible goals. Okay, so Lee, you got to give everybody the information. Let everyone know what was this impossible goal because there are motivational speakers all over the place that are sharing things that we can do that's extraordinary or outside of our limits. But what you have done and what you have achieved and what you went for blows my mind. And this is like beyond for me thinking about what we have the ability to achieve when we decide to put our mind to it.
Yeah, thank you, Kat. So I started as a typical Chinese kid, a city girl from Beijing. I barely was able to run 800 meters in PE class when I was in school, and had no athletic background until my 30s. Until my 30s, one day I had a wild daydream that I want to go climb Mount Everest. Because at that time I was working in a corporate job. I was working in finance and working so long hours. One day I just said, I need to find the motivation to go to the gym. So I set this daydream. Not at that time, was not even at the goal. It's only a daydream. I said, so I can go to the gym. And little did I know that one small step led to another. Then I joined the gym. Then I joined a running club, then a hiking group, then climbing classes. And before I knew it, climbing became my passion. And I was on my way to pursue my daydream at the real goal.
And I love this too that you say a daydream, right? Versus a goal, because so many times we get almost a little overwhelmed with trying to set these goals. And sometimes they are really big, lofty goals for us. And I kind of love the intentionality and the fun that you put behind this, that like this is just a daydream, right? Something I want to strive for, that I want to get close to achieving. When you put this daydream in place, did you ever think that you would actually make it to it, or was it just something to kind of keep you going?
I literally called it a daydream because I never imagined I would actually do it. I would think, okay, it would be fun if I tell people I'm going to Everest, so I can start going to the gym. And so I never expect myself to go that far.
And so tell the audience how far you ended up going, because it's one thing to, get into the gym, get into running classes, which that's not my strong suit either. I was never a runner in school. And then turn around and do rock climbing, right? Doing climbing and hiking and stuff, which I love hiking, but not to the degree that you have been able to do it. So you get past your goal, right? You start doing all these things, and then your daydream is in front of you. What makes you decide to go for it?
Yeah, so at beginning, as I said, it was literally a daydream until I said, oh, actually, I'm in love with climbing. And then I said, oh, maybe shall I set it as a goal now? Try to figure out how I can achieve this goal. So I did some research. Obviously, for someone who didn't even know what is hiking until her 30s, go to Everest is a too big, too giant a step. So I said, all right, let's step back. In order to climb Everest, what kind of training do we need? I need to test myself on some smaller mountains. So I did some research, found out something about seven summits, which are the highest mountain on each of the seven continents. Some were smaller, less challenging. And then, by the way, I also discovered the North Pole and the South Pole. So altogether, they were called the Explorer's Grand Slam. So I said, all right, if I just go starting with a small one, test myself. If I'm good enough, I'll go to the next one so that I build up my skill, my endurance, my strength, my experience. Then I'll see how far I go. And 6 years later, so because that whole thing started in 2004, I basically laid out a 6 year plan. All right, because working, so I'll just take one vacation a year to go climb one of these goals. And by 2010, luckily, I completed everything on that spreadsheet and became the first Asian woman, the first Chinese woman, the first Asian American, the fourth woman in the world to complete the Explorer's Grand Slam, which is climbing the highest mountain on each of the seven continents and skiing to both the North Pole and the South Pole.
This is mind-blowing to me. Like I am in such awe of you and what you have accomplished. The Explorer's Grand Slam. Like for anyone that isn't aware of this, I immediately like Googled this as soon as Lee and I talked the first time. And this is like an insane accomplishment. And like you said, to go from someone that didn't even do this kind of thing to deciding in her 30s that like this is what she wanted to go for is such a component of where your mindset is and what you had to work on. I mean, yes, there's definitely physical components, right? We know that in order to get in shape. What was it that you had to do, though, to mentally prepare for something like this? Because it isn't like this is like a couple-hour hike, right? Where you just go up a mountain and come right back down. There's a lot more to what it is that you accomplished.
Yes, thank you, Kat. That's a great question because most people all like to ask, oh, what kind of skill, what kind of training? But it took me 6 years of relentless pursuit just to get to the base of the mountain. Because for someone starting from ground zero, yes, there's a lot of skill training experience building, but also for someone who just earned the MBA and landed a job in finance, starting a new career track, and who came from a traditional Chinese cultural background, a traditional family value about education, about career, about what is a normal life. That was a huge hurdle for me to overcome as a objection from my family, doubt from
Mm.
others, my own insecurity about my future, and also who am I? Someone who your value used to be defined by what kind of job do you do, which school you went to, Now it's like, what do you do? How do you make money? How are you going to survive? So all those questions is huge for me. So those years, the hardest struggle is about figure out who I am, what do I want to do, who I want to become, and what's the value, what's the worth of how do you define that for a person?
I love this. And when you're talking about this too, I love that you brought up this family component and a cultural component because I don't think that a lot of us put that in perspective, right? Whether it is something religious or cultural, there's a lot of stigmas, right? That we grow up with. There's a lot of ways that we are supposed to be when it comes to making money or how we, are seen by our family, our friends, or the people around us. How did that work for you when you decided that you wanted to test out this Explorers Grand Slam? Like, how did that affect you mentally? How did that affect you in the job that you were doing? Because I know that you said you were taking vacations each year to be able to do this, right?
Yeah, not only vacation, also the weekend, the evenings, and if people know, like sometimes you work in a corporate, sometimes you have to work overtime. You have to sacrifice your weekend in order to get the job done, or if you want to get promotions. And but sorry, I'm in the mountain. I don't even have a cell phone signal. Sorry, I cannot pick up the call. Sorry, I cannot come to the overtime. So basically, I have to sacrifice my career a lot, put my career on
Mm.
hold. Now, I cannot fulfill the requirement in order to advance the career as I wish. So it's all right. So my career is on the side burner because I decided that to pursue this climbing dream is not just about a dream, because I realize it's about who I am, who I want to become. This is the opportunity for me to face my heart, be true to myself, and to say, I have the courage to take the chance on my life, on my career, because I will change who I am.
Mm. I love this. And something that you keep saying, is I wanted to know who I am and who I wanted to be. Where do you feel like that kind of came from, right? Were you in just your career and realized that's just something needed to change, or did you start to feel disconnected? I would love for you to speak to the audience on that because I feel like there are so many people that get in this space, right? We get the job, we have the great career, we have the great money, we have the great family, and yet we still feel like we don't even know who we are.
Yeah, I didn't know that answer when I was pursuing this because that time, for so many years, I lived a normal life. I lived the so-called American dream, had the best education, best career track. So everything was good. I didn't even know something was missing. I wasn't unhappy. I was very happy with my job, with my life. So when this climbing dream came, I was scared because, like I say, what's going on? What's wrong with me? Why something that is not approved in some ways to say it's not something approved by my background, by my normal environment that came to my heart and grabbed me so strongly. I was like, something wrong with me. Then I just said, we never questioned everything when everything is good.
Mm.
At that point, when I start to question what's wrong with me, then I say, really? Am I wrong? Or something like then how do you say previous one was right if you say something wrong with me? So I said, all right, so I need to follow a different track. Then who said the track you were following is the right one? So I start to think, well, I wasn't born with a track under me. So I was put on this so-called track without even thinking. And I also look back to say, well, I think I have always been making my own decisions, my own choices. So I cannot say I'm being put on this. I said, but when I was making my decisions in the past, actually, I was given a choice of ABC, ABC school. All right, I'll go to the best school. ABC job. I'll choose the best job. But I never faced a blank paper and say, all right, what do you want? Because we never need to think about it when you have choices in front of you. So when this climbing dream came, was the first time in my life I was presented a blank paper, and somehow climbing was on it, and was who put this climbing thing on this blank paper? That's not even an ABC choices. So that has started my questioning process, and I realized in my past life, I actually was sleepwalking. I made a decision. I was working my way, but actually I wasn't actively thinking, not actively making decisions. So climbing woke me up to consciously think who I am, what do I want, who do I want to become.
Ooh, this is so powerful. And I love this visual that you give that we really are kind of put on a track and given choices of A, B, and C. And those are kind of the directions that we go. And for so many of us, we take that for so long that it's like one day it's like the track almost stops and we're like, well, wait, what are we supposed to do now? I love that you talk about this blank page and never being presented with that. That is so beautiful. And I'm a very visual person, so I love visual. But when I think about that, I'm like, oh my gosh, when I think about what it is that I went through in my life, one of the things that I started telling myself for a really long time was when I got out of my abusive relationship, I no longer wanted to write in that book. Everybody says, oh, you just write another chapter. And I changed it. And my saying was, I've decided to close that book and I decided to write series number 2. I wanted to write a brand new book versus continuing to follow the storyline that fell within that one book. And that's how I saw it. And that's really interesting that you say that, like you saw this blank piece of paper. And that's how I felt my life was for a really long time was it was this brand new book. And now we get to choose and decide how do I want to write it? And now we can choose to write it completely different.
That I bet that time probably was a scary moment for you too, because that requires a lot of courage, a lot of risk taking.
Oh, yes, so much, especially when it's not only you that is in that moment, you've got kids as well, right? My boys were younger. They're now 20 and 17, but they were a lot younger at that time. And so not only was I shifting the trajectory of how I wanted to live and where I wanted to go, I was also shifting this space for my children in the middle of them growing up and still learning, where choices were kind of put in front of them to decide. And I came in and kind of swiped everything out, was like, nope, that's no longer a choice. We're going to choose a completely different alley. So this is so beautiful when you talk about this. And I really love, honestly, that you decided to do this in your 30s. I've spoke with so many people that have decided to do things later in their life. And I think that this is an amazing reminder that when we're younger, and I remember this when I was a teenager, there were things you were supposed to do, right? You went to school, you were to graduate, you went to college, you got the good job. And there's a lot of people that are getting now into this space of their life where they're like, but I don't want to do that anymore. And then I hear this other component, which is, but maybe I have missed the chance. And it sounds like you understood that you never missed your chance. You just had to choose to want to do this.
Well, I never thought I missed a chance because one good thing they say ignorance is a blessing. Because when you didn't know that, when you grew up with a totally different kind of culture, you didn't even know what you were missing as a teenager. That I
Mhm.
realized until much later in my 30s, I realized, oh, I'm just making up all the lessons that American kids learned when in their teenage. Now I'm just trying to figure out who I am, kind of. But I never felt it's better late than never. So I never thought it's something we already missed the train. It's just, all right, let me just go catch it up. And also sometimes I do think in a way like how we have a conversation with ourselves helped. Because sometimes I ask them, why are you afraid? Why are you having some fear? It's because you are older now. So if you were 20, how would you act? You would say no fear. Then what's the difference? Doesn't matter you're 20, you're 30, you're 40. If you think yourself as a standing at a new starting line, then pretend you didn't have anything to lose because a lot of time we say, oh, I have too much to lose when we start late. But if you
Mm.
let go that part, think about you if you are the same person at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and you face the same possibilities of success, would you go for it or not?
That is such a powerful question. And I love that you ask yourself these things to figure out where it's coming from. It's something that I've had to learn to do with myself is ask myself those questions when I know that I want to do it. And then a part of me is like, "Ooh, but what if?" So I think that thank you for bringing this up because we need to be asking ourselves these kinds of questions and in a way debunking those old beliefs that we could have picked up from people that we grew up with, people that were around when we worked somewhere, our friend group, whatever the case may be. There are so many beliefs out there in the world, in the society that I think, like you were saying earlier, we just take in and don't even realize that it isn't a choice of ours. We just took it in blindly.
Yeah, and I think the belief, I know it's a very more like a coaching term, but for normal life, when we think about the sunk cost or think about what do I have to lose if I do this right now, we actually were having our past shaping the future. But the
Mhm.
truth is, yes, past build your experience, build a lot of memories, but what matters is from here to the future, what can you build? What can you make it happen? How you going to make it happen? So doesn't matter you're starting from 20, 30. If you look forward, you actually equal. If you put in the effort, you have the equal chance to make something happen.
I love this. Now I have to ask because, you know, what you did is not a feat that somebody can just go out and do on a whim, right? Or go out on a weekend or after just a couple of months of training. Can you talk to the amount of mental motivation and discipline that you took with you or you learned when you were going on these trips, especially skiing the North and South Pole? I mean, that's brutal weather. I even thinking about that, I just get cold and I'm like, there's no way I wouldn't be able to survive. So, can you speak to how you shifted the way that you saw things and felt things and what was your push to keep doing that? Because I know that you speak on this as well, right? This is how you lead people into realizing the opportunities and the abilities that we actually do have to accomplish these things that we never thought were possible.
Yeah, so facing the challenge on the expedition and facing the challenge during this journey, the pursuing the goal, actually the so you to stay in our lane, to be within where we feel comfortable, what feels familiar. However, when you are staying in the zone, you are comfortable, you are familiar, you
Mm,
grow. And when you don't grow, what happens is you get bored. And when you get bored, what happens? You're going to get depressed and everything going to go downhill. So for our as a human being, we always want to grow. And grow always happen in some kind of tension that something stimulates you to learn something, try something different. That's how you grow. So if you see that, then you're going to realize when you're pursuing something hard, no matter it's really, really cold condition that I have to battle to stay warm, stay alive, or pursuing a daydream that You don't even believe yourself can do it, but I don't know if I can reach it, but I'm just stretch myself a little bit to see how far I can go. I'll just move one step at a time, move forward a little bit. That's the opportunity actually a lot of people don't have. So if you recognize you have the opportunity to challenge yourself to grow, that's so precious. So when think of that, so when I face like some pain, suffering, I thought, this is my opportunity to grow. So this is the God give me the opportunity to stretch myself. And when the wind is blowing on your face, you feel so cold and shivering. You say, oh, I feel alive. Because sometimes maybe you're too comfortable, you don't even feel you're alive. So those kind of how you look at things shift how your body reacts and how your mental state going to be in that kind of situation and help to keep you alive, keep you energized, and make you enjoy. Even people say it's a pain, it's a suffering, but actually you will get to enjoy it because you know this is my opportunity to grow, to become a better person, to become a stronger person, become a new me.
Oh, this is so beautiful. And you are so right. We, as an entire society, we are so used to being comfortable. We're so used to being in that zone that when we do try to go outside of it just a little bit, it tends to shut us down. And I know that even research has shown that we grow and it's actually good for us mentally and for our longevity when we are pushing ourselves just outside of that comfort zone limit. That is when we activate all of these additional neurons and senses that help keep the body stabilized, that keep wanting it to push forward. It's actually really interesting when you think of complacency and normalcy actually can shorten your lifespan because there is no challenge for the body and for the brain. And I found that so fascinating. And, something else that you talked about, when you're feeling the cold wind on you, but you said you're feeling alive, I just keep thinking about presence. And I talk about this a lot, but I do think that in our society, we are definitely not taught to live in a state of presence. We are taught to live in a state of go, 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 knowing what is happening next so that we don't have to think about it, versus being able to, what I feel like you got to do was absorb every ounce of the things that you were in, the rawness of nature, and the ability to do things that most people will never be able to do in their lifetime. And I can only imagine the beauty that you got to see, that because we are consistently in front of our phones or watching TV, miss out on so much of that. And it comes back to being able to have the ability to be present. And unfortunately, when we are in front of screens and we're doing the same thing day to day to day to day, we're not teaching ourselves how to be present. We tend to miss the beauty that is around us or the small things that we could do a little bit differently that could even improve what we do on a regular basis. So I don't know. I'm a little jealous and not something I would do, but I just think of what you got to experience and what you got to see. And it's absolutely beautiful because, again, most of us are never going to get to see anything like that in our lives. And you got to fully immerse yourself in that experience and be able to take the beauty in with it.
Yeah, exactly. And also another side of this being present to be able to enjoy those view that other people don't get to see is the gratitude. Because when we look at everything with the lens of gratitude, then you're going to shift it. Yes, maybe it's cold out there. But if you think how many people don't get to enjoy the nature, then all right, that I appreciate. I'm out here breathing the fresh air, even though it's kind of cold. And when you're facing the challenge, I say, how many people don't get to experience what they're passionate about? They don't get to experience the dream. They don't get to experience what it's like to pursue something almost impossible. that is a rare opportunity. I get the privilege, the opportunity to pursue something. So I feel that's my something I need to be grateful. I need to enjoy. I need to do what I can do at my best to take the best advantages of the opportunity. So when you have that kind of gratitude towards everything every day happening, oh, I'm so lucky I get to test it by this challenge. Oh, there's another something hard throwing at me. This is my opportunity to learn, to grow. So if you see everything as an opportunity, you feel grateful about it, then sorry, there's not much thing to complain, I say. Everything that is painful, that's my opportunity, right? So that's why when I had this choice of pursuing my dream, or stay in my current zone, stay in my comfort zone, my current lane. I said, wow, how many people don't even know what they're passionate about? What's their something they could dream about? So I say, I'm so lucky I discovered something unexpected. So this is something I'm grateful. That's why I'm pursuing it. So I think all this kind of attitude that shifts the how we react to situations. And also another layer, I think for a lot of people, I know why they can be deterred by something when I say seemingly impossible goals, because people often immediately come, well, there's no way I'm going to do this. And there's no way something like that can happen. The thing, that's why I use the word seemingly impossible, because the point is not about whether you're going to reach that goal or not. The point is, first, if you have the courage to decide to pursue it, that's going to make you different, make you a different person inside. And that decision to pursue going to push you to make one small step, learn something, a tiny new skill even, just a tiny new step. You're going to be one step further than where you were. So the decision to pursue and the decision to continue to stay in the game, doesn't matter you reach the goal or not, you're going to go so much further than where you were. And many years later, you look back, you can, I can't believe it. Even say I only walked 10 steps from where I were. It's, wow, I can't believe it. That 10 steps sounded impossible to me. Now I walked 10 steps. Can I just walk the 11th step, the 12th step? Then you realize, oh, I'm only one step away from that goal I thought was impossible. So that's how I felt on my journey when I was going to Everest. When I was starting my trek towards the base camp, I was like, I can't believe it. I'm actually walking towards the base camp. At that time, I was telling myself, I don't care I reach the summit or not. This is already way, way, way further than I ever imagined I would go. So doesn't matter what happens, it's already a win. So every step I move forward towards the base camp, and every step further I move above the base camp. It's a new win. Every day is a victory. I don't really care how far I am from the summit. What matters is how far I went from where I started.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And what a wonderful reminder not to get so caught up in the goal that you have set so far ahead, but to be able to enjoy the journey as you're going through it and have this sense of appreciation to know that you were here way back at one point in time. And even 5 step further, you're like, oh, I'm not back there anymore. Now I'm closer and now I'm closer. This was something I had a really hard time with figuring out for a really long time of my life because there were so many goals put in front of you, right? To have kids and have a good marriage and, pursue the right career and things like that. And we as a society get so caught up in those short goals, is honestly what they end up being, that by the time we get to it, we forget to actually even enjoy it. And so I love this so much that, like, for you being at base camp at the bottom of Mount Everest, after all the things that you had done, you were just happy and appreciative and full of gratitude to know that you had made it that far compared to where you were at before. Because I do think that we forget to sit in whatever space we're at now and go, okay, this is where I want to go forward. And where was I a few years ago? And am I still in that same place? We forget to look behind. We get so caught up in wanting to see more and better and higher and achievements that we forget to have gratitude and appreciation for where we started.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I say the point of the seemingly impossible goal is not about arriving. It's not about can I achieve that or not? It's about the becoming. Who do you become in this process? So that is how we see ourselves versus what we want. Because if we keep on saying, oh, I want that, I want that, but I cannot achieve that, that make me unhappy. But if you see, if I want that, what do I need to do in order to move toward that direction? And then you compare how you progressed, who you become, appreciate that. You gain a lot of happiness. And I also was just thinking when you were saying that, I think this also related to a lot of things people when we compare ourselves with others, because we are comparing others, what they have is something I cannot have, so I'm not happy. Or
Hmm.
but if we see others, it's just as a goal. And if you see, if I want what others have, what do I need to do? That will make me a different person, will improve my life. Then that part of the improvement of my life is what I get to enjoy instead of being bitter about the gap between what I have versus what other people have.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful point to bring up as well is the comparison of other people. Like we have got to stop doing that. Everybody is on their own journey. Everybody is trying to figure out their own life. Some people have decided to be very disciplined or were blessed to have opportunities that others just didn't. It doesn't make your journey any less than where it is at, right? And that's something I had to really learn for a really long time after spending 10 years in an abusive relationship because I felt so behind and I felt like I had missed out on so much and I should have been here by this point and my kids should have been doing this, but instead I was having to deal with this unhealed trauma of both mine and theirs. And it took me a really long time to understand that everybody's journey is their own. And there is no comparison. There should never be comparison. Now, if you want to use something that someone has done as your motivation to say, oh my gosh, that is a dream of mine. And if they achieved it, I know I can work toward that. If you want to use it as an inspiration, by all means, go for it. But I agree with you that we don't all have the same end goals to begin with. Whether you decide to run a business or you decide to stay in corporate. Neither one of those is right or wrong. It is the path that you chose to do. The amount of money that you choose to make because of what you do in your life is completely up to you. And for some people, that's making millions and millions of dollars, right? And for others, they just want to have a good life where they can have a good home, where they can grow their own vegetables and be happy. And we have to understand that both of those are fantastic goals. You just get to choose which one that you want, and that doesn't make your goal wrong because you don't see something the way somebody else sees it. I love this. This is absolutely beautiful. Oh, okay, Lee. So now that you have climbed all these summits and done Mount Everest, which by the way, did you make it to the top? I have to know.
Yes. I
Okay.
back down alive also.
That is very true. Because this is like is it a 6 month process? Like I didn't realize how long it takes to get to the top of Mount Everest and then come back down.
The whole expedition is 2.5 months.
Two and a
And
half
it,
months.
yeah, and it didn't even start until you trekked 10 days to the base camp. Then for the next 3 to 4 weeks, you need to go up and down again on the mountain to acclimatize. Then you wait for the window of the summit window until every condition collaborates that you can go to the top. So it's about a 2.5 months process, but there's no guarantee. Anything can happen. Disasters, storm, you get sick, something happens. So there's so many things can go wrong that something people didn't know is on most Everest team, a quarter of the climbers quit within the first month. And that actually is very similar to our daily life. When we are pursuing some hard goals, when you're running a business, you see most people quit too early. And so that's the starting is hard, but what is harder is to stay in the game.
That is so true. So true. And I didn't realize that it was that that many people that quit. It's a hard process to begin with. So I get it. And you're so right, of just making this decision of, is this something I want to stay in? Is this something that I want to see through? Is this an accomplishment that I am looking for? Because you are right. There are so many people that get into this industry with so much passion, but it takes a lot to stay in it, to continue with that passion and all the other things that come with it, right? So now that you have done all these things, you have all these accomplishments, how do you use that now in the conversations that you're having with people and with leadership and when you're speaking?
Yeah, so that brings me to a different perspective about everything because I do recognize in our everyday life, not everyone would say almost no, most people wouldn't want to bother to climb Everest, but we all have our own Everest moments. Our goals maybe it could be just trying to pull through a really hard season, hard quarter, or trying to lead a team that is struggling, or just trying to hold things steady when everything is changing around you. And your average moment, maybe just a time you are so tired, you're stuck, you're out of options, you're questioning yourself like, oh, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Oh, why am I still holding on to this? Why am I still even trying? Is this worth it? So all those moments are as hard as Everest because that's the
Mm.
kinds of moments, that kind of questions we have been asking every day on Everest. So I appreciate those kind of doubts, fear in daily life, so I can relate how people are feeling in their career, in their life as a leader, as a team member, as a business person. So I can help them to guide them through. This is your opportunity. If you appreciate what you're learning, even if it's a setback, it's a failure, it's a rejection. If you look at what you can learn from that, how you can leverage that opportunity to improve yourself, and let's focus on what can we do to move forward because that's the only way we can make progress. That's the only way we can improve our life, improve our business, and get closer to that seemingly impossible goal.
Oh, I love this. And I love that you use everybody has their own Everest moment. That is so true on so many levels. Even though you may never actually climb that mountain, you end up having your own Mount Everest. That is, oh, I love your visuals, Lee. I am such a fan of this tremendously. I could talk to you forever, like forever.
Oh,
So and
just
ask
express
all of
deep
the questions.
thoughts.
It's just beautiful, and it is such a testament to the, like you said, what we consider to be seemingly impossible. It puts in perspective how much of possibility we really do have when we make the choice to pursue something or to move forward in something or to let something go. So I love that you use the word seemingly impossible. I'm gonna have to remember that because that I love that. So if you were to speak to the audience and you wanted to leave them with something today, what would that be?
I want to build on the simile because yes, we face rejection, we face doubt, we face fear, we even face maybe desperations on a daily basis. And we may think this is the end, there's no way out. But if you just ask yourself, is that true? Can I just move 1% more forward? Can I just try 1% more? A little bit harder or a little bit improvement. Can I just do 1% more? That will move you forward.
1%. So beautiful. Small steps, right? Start somewhere, which leads somewhere else, and be aware of your progress, right? That's so important. All right, Lee, tell everybody then, where can they find you? How can they connect with you? How can they be in your world?
Well, my website is leiwangspeaker.com. I would love to come to speak at your events, your community, your platform. And if anyone needs coaching support, you can also reach out to me at leiwangspeaker.com. And for social media, I'm most active on LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn link is also simple. It's linkedin.com/in/Lei Wang, LeiWang. Thank you.
Awesome. Yes. And of course, we'll have all that information in the show notes for everyone to be able to see. We're going to make it super easy for you to be able to follow and connect with Lee. She's an absolutely amazing person, and you can ask her all the questions about how cold she was. No, I'm just kidding. So, Lee, thank you so much again for being a part of the podcast today. I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you, Kat. I really appreciate this opportunity, and your energy is contagious. Thank you.
Thank you. I love it. Oh my goodness. Oh, so to everybody that is listening, I know that you got something out of this, even if it is the simple fact that we all have our own Everest that we have to climb. Just remember that you have that choice to decide where you want to move on to next. And as you are deciding and as you are moving forward in whatever direction that seems, be sure to also look behind and remember where you started so that you can have that gratitude that Lee is talking about as you continue to grow toward that daydream or that goal of yours that you have. Until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. Until next time, catch you later. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Chat with Kat today, where real stories meet real solutions. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review on Apple, and share this with someone who may also need to hear this as well. Let's also keep the conversation going. Follow me on socials at The Lotus Effect, connect with our incredible guests, and remember, you are never alone. Your story matters, and you have the ability and the power to rewrite it. You always have a choice. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and keep showing up as the incredible, unstoppable